Are you planning on buying or selling a home in the Myrtle Beach area? Well, in today's market, it's so important for you to understand appraisal gaps and how they could potentially affect the sale. So before you drop that appraisal contingency or accept an offer without one, you need to watch this video. When the appraised value comes in lower than the contract price, that difference is called the appraisal gap. And unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of this past year as the prices continue to rise faster than appraisals can keep up. So, as a buyer or as a seller, what do you need to be aware of when it comes to appraisal gaps before you come to an agreement? Well, first, for buyers, are you thinking about dropping that appraisal contingency to make your offer as strong as possible? Well, wait a minute, you still need to protect yourself. Instead of just having an open-ended gap amount, you should decide on just how much of a gap you're offering to pay or that you can afford to pay should that be necessary. Now remember, you're going to have to come out of pocket with any gap in the appraisal that you agreed on, and the lender will not count that gap money towards your down payment. For example, let's say that you're purchasing a property for $300,000 and you need to put 20% down to drop that PMI and get approved. Well, the appraisal comes back in at $290,000. Now you're gonna have to bring to the table that $10,000 appraisal gap, 20% of the $290,000, which is $58,000, plus your closing costs, which let's estimate at $9,000. So that means that you're gonna need to be prepared to bring $77,000 to the closing table. As a seller, you're gonna need to request proof of funds that the buyer can actually come up with the appraisal gap difference that they're offering to you in the contract, plus their down payment money and closing cost. And as a buyer, you should be prepared to present your proof of funds when you're making an offer so that it is as strong as possible. Now sellers, besides getting the proof of funds from the buyer, that's not enough. You need to actually have it in writing that the buyer is agreeing to pay any appraisal gap or a specified appraisal gap. Do not just rely on that box being checked for not contingent on appraisal, because what we are seeing is that at times the buyer's offered no appraisal contingency. The appraisal comes in low and the loan is denied. The buyer wants their earnest money back because, hey, their financing was denied and they're covered by their financing contingency on the contract. So as you can see, have it in writing because the less gray area when it comes to this is better. Now, if the appraised value plus the gap amount that the buyer offered to pay on the contract do not add up to the contract price, what happens then? For example, let's say the contract price is $300,000. The appraisal gap amount per the contract is $10,000, and the appraisal came in at $250,000. Well, the appraised value plus the gap only equals to $260,000. So what happens now? The answer is that it depends. Let's say that the seller's just not going to take any less money because the market's so hot, they know they can just relist it and sell it again easily. Well, the buyer doesn't want to lose the property and they do actually have the funds to cover the difference. Then the first option is that the buyer comes up with the additional appraisal gap money and they continue with the sale. Let's say that the seller is more flexible. Well, then the second option would be for the buyer and the seller to negotiate a new contract price. Maybe they both agree to meet in the middle of the $40,000 difference. And so the new contract price becomes $280,000. However, if the buyer's not able to come up with any more money, or maybe they just simply don't feel that the home is worth more than the appraisal value plus the gap amount that they had agreed to, well, the third option is for the seller to come down to the $260,000 sales price. Finally, if the buyer and the seller cannot agree on a solution, the fourth option is that they terminate the contract and then the buyer would be entitled to receive their earnest money deposit back. Please note that the seller is not required to come down to the appraised value plus agreed to gap amount. and the buyer is not required to come up to the agreed contract price in this scenario. Now, this is a real and unfortunately common situation that many buyers and sellers are facing right now. So preparation ahead of going under contract can save you a ton of headaches in the long run. If you need an experienced team to help you buy or sell a property here in the Myrtle Beach area, give us a call. We would love to help you. And we'd appreciate so much if you'd leave a like on this video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel as we release new videos every week that you're not gonna wanna miss.